I have the enable auto load thing, but it doesn't load.
You scared me.
Oh, sorry.
Welcome, Miss Mary. Now, I need you to do me one favor. Can you make sure that you can screen share?
Okay, sure. Now let's see where it goes. That'll be interesting. So I have like 4 windows.
That's good.
What do you see? Okay, now if I go to show you like my portfolio, you see that?
I don't, yes. Yep, I saw it for a split second and then it stopped. You want to try it again? Oh, no, stopped? I can see it. Oh, yeah, I see it. I see it. Take it back. Woo-hoo. Well, now I see that you are on the... Oh,
I moved. Okay, gotcha.
There we go. Beautiful.
Okay.
Oh, so, great.
Okay, so let's grab Ian now that we know that works.
Yep.
So stop sharing.
Oh, you want to? You can probably invite him, right?
Can I? You know what, Blanca? I can't.
Oh, how about the link? Send him the link that I sent you.
The link that you sent me.
I'll put it in the chat box. Oh, you know what? The
new one?
No, hold on. Let me send. I'm chatting something to you.
Oh, it's high pressure. This big recording doesn't seem to.
We're live.
We are live on YouTube.
Sure, we know we are live. Okay. Let me see if I have. Yes, I do. I will invite.
Yeah, I have his email. I don't know why I'm having such a difficult.
Okay.
It's not like popping up in my.
He has a cute little picture. I'm his son, right? Okay.
No, Ian, Ian Loeffler. Oh, geez. Look at what's frozen on there.
What?
Oh, my gosh. That's embarrassing. Can I delete that?
What are you talking about?
Look at my, okay, hold on. I'm going to share. I'm glad you're laughing.
I don't see anything.
Hold on. Look at that. Like, what is that? Ay. That's like a perfect snapshot of my day right there. How come I can't find Ian?
Okay. It's all good.
Did you send me the link?
No, I invited him in.
Oh, you invited him?
Yeah, I think I found him. I think I found the right Ian. You know what? Why don't you send me his email in the group chat? Perhaps I invited the wrong Ian, who's now trying to figure out what is this whole ePortfolio stuff about.
Here he is. You're right. Okay. Where's my chat?
Okay. Well, as long as you can hear me, I'm not going to put on my headset.
Okay, it's in the chat. I.F. Loeffler.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly. Mm-hmm.
Now, I wonder if I shouldn't put that in that chat, the group chat. We should probably put that in the...
Okay.
Blanca, really, I got to take this off of here. Look at our events page.
What?
How is that on there like that?
That's not what that looks like. It looks like that because when you...
That's not what?
That's not what it's going to look like to other people. I will check, okay? But I'm pretty sure that's not what it looks like. No, definitely not.
No.
It only looks like it to you because you...
You see it, right?
No, I'm not there yet. I'm just... Oh, another person's coming.
Oh, great.
All right, press the play button. Press the play button. Oh, we're live. It looks like that because when you...
That's not what?
That's not what it's going to look like to other people. I will check. Okay, but I'm pretty sure that's... Much better. Okay, so now look at it to see if I paused it in the right place. Oh, this is going to be fun. Look, we can have a Q&A box. Ask the audience to...
Blanca, I can't. Now it's like recording in my. This is too
You have
much.
to pause it. Pause it. All right, I invited you.
Did you invite him? Yeah, I can't invite anybody.
Oh, we need some seriousness. Question. So the webinar will be here instead of... Yes! All right, I got this one. Oh, hi, Mahmood. I haven't seen him in a long time. Currently answering. Oh, do I just answer without texting? Well, that's kind of weird. The webinars are actually going to be in YouTube. So what we're going to try and do, Mahmood, is actually... Teachers Engaged should have a YouTube channel, and we'll check if they don't, but they can create a playlist of all of the Teachers Engaged webinars that will be run through YouTube, and then they can create a YouTube playlist, and they can link it back up into the Teachers Engaged community, and you'll be able to have access to all of them. So hopefully that answers the question. But thanks for joining us. I didn't realize that you would be here tonight. Okay, we are going to try to invite our presenter of the night again. See if he, let's see if he gets this. Alrighty. I'm just going to try one more thing, Mary, just to make sure that I put Ian in my circles. Alrighty, and we are welcoming everyone. Hello, hello. We're just going to wait another minute, make sure that we have everybody online. But if you are coming in from all around the world, we thank you for joining us tonight. I'm just checking my email to make sure of that.
I see Ian.
Oh, I see him. Yay! Hello, Ian. Yay!
Welcome, good evening.
Good evening. How are you, Ian? Great to have you here with us tonight.
Thank you. It's great to be here virtually.
Awesome.
So, Ian, this is Miss Blanca Duarte. She's one of the most fabulous people I've ever met in my whole life.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
She really is.
About you, so.
And she's an educational technology educational guru. And so I'm introducing
Sounds like somebody I know.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah?
There you go. Birds of a feather. All right, I think what we're going to do is we just want to make sure, Ian, that you can share your screen when you're ready. So can you just put your mouse over to the left-hand side of the Hangout window? Let's just make sure that you're able to share your screen. You should have a little green box that says screen share.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. You do, right?
Yep.
Excellent. We are just checking. Okay, so I think we're ready. Everybody ready? We have a Q&A box over on the right-hand side too. So if anybody wants to ask questions, the questions will come through, and we'll be able to either stop and answer them at different points in time. Or all right, guys. So I think we are set. Yay! We should have some background music. Bum ba da bum. All right. So we can start recording now, and I'll do the little clippy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intel Teachers Engage webinar series of 2014. I am your host, Blanca Duarte, here with my co-host, Mary Howard, and Ian Leffler, who is going to be our presenter today. And we're going to talk to you about exploring ePortfolios for college and career readiness. The Intel Teachers Engage community is, and let's just get to the right, here we go, presentation, so I can so I can welcome you all properly. Here we go. So the Intel Teachers Engaged community is a community dedicated to transforming the K-12 classroom. We talk about things like technology integration, we talk about learning spaces, we talk about what great learning looks like and what learning environments look like in today's day and age. It can be found at engage.intel.com. That's our website address, and you'll see that website address throughout the presentation today. We'll also share it with you. The Intel Engage Live One-to-One webinar series that Mary and I co-host throughout the year is really dedicated to helping those of you engaged in one-to-one classrooms where every child has a device. And we know that with the decrease in the cost of technology and infrastructure and in devices, we're really excited that these opportunities are presenting themselves to students, and that students really have opportunities to extend their learning now really beyond the classroom and really into more global settings. Don't forget to follow us. We've got our Twitter handles here as well. We are trying something new today. We are broadcasting to you from Hangouts on Air using our Google Plus community and profile. So we're changing it up a little bit. We usually use Adobe Connect, but we're trying something new to try and reach other educators around the world. Couple things about the Intel Engage community. We are on Facebook, so if you have a Facebook account, you can like us on Facebook and keep up to date with all of the webinars that Teachers Engage runs throughout the month and throughout the year. We also have a wonderful Teachers Engage community. Again, that URL is engage.intel.com. We hope that you join it. That community has over 60,000 educators dedicated to students and to learning. Don't forget, if you are using Facebook or Twitter or Google+, please go ahead and use the hashtag CE14 for Connected Educators Month. We are very excited to bring you this special session on ePortfolios. And for those of you who do have a Twitter handle, please go ahead and share that in the chat that you see on the events page. We're happy to keep you engaged and put you on a Teachers Engaged list. Alrighty. So without further ado, Miss Mary, I'm going to turn it back to you and let you introduce Ian and the work that you're doing.
Okay. So as we were thinking of what would be a really valuable and informative session to host for educators, we were considering the digital portfolio platform as authentic forms of assessment. And, we're just, as we begin the school year and really considering how we can prepare our students for college and career, and with all of our new Google Apps platforms and various different ways to communicate to each other and for our students to work and communicate across the globe, we really want to take a lot of consideration into what things will look like for students. And so one of the ways, of course, that we can do that, especially at the high school level, is by building a digital presence, digital portfolio for our students and really guiding them along that path. So as we're working within business classrooms at the high school level, how can we utilize these skills and curricula that we're already instructing students on and really transform that into something that they take with them through their high school experience and then take with them beyond. So I am fortunate enough to also work with Mr. Ian Loeffler, who is a business teacher at the high school level, and he had a really great experience this summer working with creating digital presence for students that they were able to utilize as they begin to prepare for college and career. So Ian was kind enough to be available to present here a little bit about his experience. And so Ian, I will pass it over to you if you'd like to start, just share a little bit about what that process actually looks like at the classroom level and what you did through the summer, what came to fruition, and your thoughts on implementation in the future.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Great. Ian, do you mind, let me just interrupt for one short moment. I know some of you are trying to invite your fellow educators and colleagues, so I just want to let you know that I'm putting that link on the events page so that you can they should be able to click on it and go right to the YouTube broadcast.
Bless you.
All yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mary. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking the time out to join us on this video conference here this evening. Forgot to mention to Mary, happy Bosses Day to you and all the other bosses and administrators out there. We always appreciate the work that you do for us, and always appreciate the continued feedback and long hours that go into the workday and helping teachers like myself succeed. So again, thank you. Happy Bosses Day. All right, so I'm just going to give everybody a brief overview on what my experience was this summer. I taught at a program federally funded by the U.S. Department of Education called Upward Bound, specifically for math and science students. And the Upward Bound experience really was not only good for the students, but it was good for me as a new educator. I give you a little bit of background about myself. I'm fairly new to teaching. I worked for about 7 years in the financial services industry and looked at teaching as a great opportunity for me to bridge my professional experience into the classroom. And so this was a great thing that was able to compound my experiences in teaching and expose me to new things that teachers look to do in terms of preparing their students for not only for college but for careers altogether. Part of what I did go over with my students over the summer was developing an online persona. Developing an online persona is something that they were able to look at as an opportunity in applying to college, and also an opportunity for applying for other types of academic programs, internships, and possibly even jobs. So it got their thought process going on. Gee, we're getting ready for graduating high school, and what awaits us in the real world. So the foundation of this project, before we did anything with web design at all, was gathering all the pertinent data that you really want to communicate to either an employer or an admissions counselor or anybody else looking to bring you on as part of their organization. And so we jump-started the data gathering process through a template that I provided to my students called a junior information sheet. It's essentially a brag sheet. If the traditional anecdote is when you're in a job interview, so if I called your old boss, what would he say about you? So it's really an opportunity for you to sell yourself and highlight the important things that you've accomplished academically and outside the classroom as well. Can everybody see the brag sheet okay?
I think you have to share, Ian. Did you share your screen?
I thought I did. Oh, my apologies.
Here you go.
Yep.
There we are. So this is the brag sheet in a Microsoft Word document. Very generic type of template. And starting out with the basic information, name, academic GPA, ACT or SAT test results. And then it goes further down into highlighting other different types of academic honors, just like a resume, an objective or an opening statement, and that they could possibly tailor to their online persona. Different types of interests, hobbies, talents. Again, the different types of information that a lot of professional people like to put on their resumes to present in front of a potential employer. But again, essential information that a high school student would want to communicate to an admissions counselor or a job internship program. And then going further into it towards the middle of the page, different experiences within high school, different clubs that they belong to, could be student government, debate team. I know Upward Bound is definitely a big program. It's a college preparedness program that students not only develop skills, but it's a great thing for them to put on their resume or brag sheet or online persona as well. So some program like that would go in that section also. And also a section reserved for athletics and service that they have for outside the classroom as well, non-school service such as fundraising, things of that nature. And also work experience, if at all pertinent. So we spent about a day or a good chunk of 1 hour and 45-minute class gathering all this data. Some students had some of this information. Some of the students had to really invest some time into gathering this information as well. But again, this was really the foundation of going to that web page and starting to determine what's going to go where, how we're going to visually present this information. The big question that I asked my students was, what is the added value in putting this in the form of a web page as opposed to just handing the paper over to an employer or an admissions counselor and doing the talking on your own? The added value is really that all this information, while it's important and they need to know it, is visual. And it also demonstrates that they went the extra mile and are in tune with 21st century skills in organizing their information for a 21st century audience. And so I definitely think that we're trending in that direction where admissions counselors will be looking to see a student's online persona. From there, we went to a website called Wix, a very popular web page. I think they advertised in this area, a commercial the other evening, but they offer free templates, and so this was one of those great free tools out there. I know there are a lot of other free tools out there. I think Google provides some different templates for web page design, but I told them to start off with the basics.
Ian, I'm sorry, do you have, can you just click on Wix? You must have it open, right?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Let's go to Wix.
There. And I just want to remind everybody, if you would like to chat with us, you just have to go to the events page. I was going to put that link somewhere here. I'm trying to push it out to everybody. But if you go back to the events page in Google+, you'll be able to chat with us there. I am answering questions in that little chat box. So, all right, back to you.
Great. Do I have to share my screen again? Let's see if this works.
Nope, you want to click on it one more time.
There we go. And awesome. So we're at Wix, and what I instructed my students to do is look at the templates. And I really recommended that they narrow down on the one-page templates. Somebody like an admissions counselor or potential employer isn't going to want to spend hours clicking through their web page and digging for information. The crux of what they want to communicate to that audience really should be on one single page. And so I think my students did a very good job in utilizing the one-pager templates in doing that. Not selling Wix at all, but again, this is the source of where we began and what we used. And again, I believe there are a lot of great other free templates out there, but this is what we used. And so we went to the one-pagers and we clicked on, let's look at Kevin Walker, for example, the online business card, short, sweet, and to the point. I think it's loading. Let's try to get this to reload for 1 second here. My apologies for the delay. I'm just going to skip to some of the examples. But, oh, here we go. So this is very generic. Obviously, none of my students' names were Kevin Walker or looked like that gentleman right there. Not that that would be a particularly bad thing, but this, again, provided them with a foundation of, what their webpage could look like and how they could be organizing their information. From there, in the different fields where you would see paragraphs or titles, they tailor that to their own information, and we're able to change the different colors and really focus on the whole design aspect of it. But again, taking that information from their junior information sheet or their brag sheet and throwing it into the different fields that it asks for was where we went from that point. And so the final product were web pages such as this one. This is also a one-pager. This is one of my students. Her name is Sonia, and she took all that information from her junior brag sheet and threw it in there. The About Me section, honors, awards, interests, hobbies and talents, different volunteering experience, work experience. Another thing that we worked on over the summer was a YouTube video contest. It was a national contest where they did a video highlighting the different skills that they learn at Upward Bound. And so Sonia was able to also include her video that she worked with her partner, Jalen, on her webpage. So it not only was a demonstration of things that she's accomplished, but also a demonstration of her work at Upward Bound. And so any audience member going to this webpage not only would see the highlights of Sonia's academic achievements, but also some of the work that she did at Upward Bound, and also some contact information towards the bottom. Another student's work was Lewis. He took the Ken Walker format for the one-page business card and tailored that to his junior information sheet as well. And using the information that he wrote about himself, objective, he threw that into the Who I Am section. He also provided different links on the map for his online resume that you could click on. He also provided a link to connect with him through LinkedIn, and also a link to email him as well. And he also provided a link to his YouTube project that he participated in as well for my class. So there's a lot less information on Lewis's page, but again, the great thing about this is students are really able to tailor this to their liking, and also get the feedback from instructors and their peers and other people in education as to important things that they would want to communicate to an admissions counselor or potential boss. One of the other programs at Upward Bound was a senior seminar where they were able to get input from an actual admissions counselor at the school. And so that was also really important in students collaborating their experience in that course with this project as well. Lastly, I want to show you guys another student, Jalen, her information. Thought I had it up. Let's take a look here.
So Ian, while that's loading, there was the Wix is a free platform, correct, that the students were able to utilize?
Yes, absolutely free. Well, there's our background music. Yes, absolutely free. It doesn't cost a dime to the students or anybody else out there looking to do this. Obviously, Wix offers other services associated with developing your own web page, hosting services. But the general idea behind this was for students to provide a link to an admissions counselor or anybody else that they would want to communicate their academic accomplishments to, their college admission information. So the last piece of information is Jalen. This is her web page, kind of similar again to Lewis's, the one-page business card format. She did hers a little bit differently. She provided bullet points right underneath the narrative of who she is, and then other future goals and aspirations, special interests, that type of thing. One thing I did stress to my students is you don't want to really run on too much text on your web page. Again, it's supposed to be visually appealing, short, concise, and to the point. And you're not going to want to provide paragraph by paragraph by paragraph by paragraph for the reader to sift through. You want to make this a convenient experience for the person visiting your web page. And again, I think the Wix templates really provide the students that opportunity to do that at no cost. And so, just like Sonia, Jalen also included an insert of the YouTube video that her and Sonia worked on. The only difference was this started up as soon as you visit the web page. You were able to position the YouTube video or pictures at any part of the web page that you please to do. So again, a lot of this is the student's own design. But again, this is one of the great multimedia features of the Wix free template web page design that the students were able to tailor to their own experience. She also has a map, different links, Twitter link, Facebook link, LinkedIn link, and the link to her YouTube. And she also included pictures for the Upward Bound experience as well. So really in closing here, again, I can't stress enough the important part of this, the foundation of this project for the students was to first gather the information using the junior information sheet or the brag sheet, and then inputting it into the template, and then focusing on the design aspects, the wallpaper, the background, where the YouTube video is going to go, the different colors. And so that was really the fun part about the project for the students was, putting the finishing touches. It's kind of like baking a cake. You go to the store, you buy the ingredients, you mix everything, and then you focus on the baking part. That's all monotonous, but it has to be done. And then the final stage is, dressing it up and putting the icing and decorating. And again, that's what students enjoy doing. But this is really great because students are able to say, I have a web page, you can go check it out. So that's pretty much it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to send your messages now. If you haven't done so, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ian, so much. And I'm not moderating the question. I think the biggest question for everyone is where the chat box is. So I just want to remind everyone, if you go back to the events page, there's a chat right on the events page, so the page that you go to actually view this. That's where you can actually ask your questions if you want to, or you can ask your questions on the screen now. Really interesting, though. So Ian, how long did it take the kids, and maybe what was the most challenging part for them as they were trying to collect all their information? Did they share with you what was hard for them to kind of figure out? I mean, you're asking them basically to collect information from maybe their high school career or longer than that. Like, how easily available is all of that to kids?
For this particular program, a lot of these kids already had a brag sheet or an information sheet or a lot of this data as being, part of the Upward Bound experience. Some didn't. Or some had not as much detailed information. So for those students, definitely the data gathering process they found quite challenging and spent the majority of their time on this project gathering all that data, deciding and thinking really about, what is important for me to highlight. Obviously, taking a vacation to the Caribbean isn't something that you would want to, share with an admissions counselor, but definitely doing a Habitat for Humanity volunteer experience, would be something. So, both involve taking a plane outside the country, but which experience would you really want to communicate in adding and selling yourself and selling your skill set and providing that added value in presenting your information.
And if I could chime in, I think it's important when you're looking at these more useful and authentic forms of assessment to really consider what your end goal is. So, for example, what Ian was working on through the summer was a summer project very specific to the program that those students had enrolled in, it's a very systematic process. So where we are at the high school level, when we start to have conversations around creating portfolios and how we can assess students in a variety of different ways, we can look at it in a different way, because we could either work it within one class, or we could have this follow students throughout their 4 years, and they could begin building this as freshmen and move towards their senior year. So when you're looking at, when we have students in a 4-year pathway, one elective per year, they can be building this throughout that time. But I think it's important to also, Ian made it very clear, and it's very valuable, about that brag sheet. Now, for us, if we look realistically at our class day and what we're doing within our structure at school, we could easily start with these students in an overview office class and transition that into something that they build to begin building this portfolio. So we could take an entire year to start building the framework for them to, at the end of the year, have a beginner resume. Their brag sheet may take all year to start building. But I think it's really valuable to look at that even at the freshman level, because then as the students look at, okay, what would be considered something positive to put on this brag sheet, they can start becoming members of co-curriculars, joining athletic teams, volunteering for Habitat, and doing those things that they can begin to populate that information. So just the exposure to what is going to be expected of them as seniors when they're looking at admissions, when they're looking at career placement, is a valuable experience in and of itself. So it's good to look at these digital presence pieces and look at how you can really, let's say, it's a corporate term, but get the most bang for your buck kind of thing. Like, how can we really tie this into everything that the student does throughout the day and use it as something they can carry with them? So it's important to consider at the beginning what your time frame is going to be, what the objective of the portfolio, and then how you can break that into pieces with that, considering that end in mind, what you'd really like to see them leaving, graduating with. Ian and I work in a demographic with about probably 95% free and reduced lunch. We have a population that speaks over 60 languages. So everything that we do within our class time and within our work day is truly supporting them in their journey towards college and career. And so how can we really optimize on that time? So the digital presence is so valuable because they can take that anywhere with them. There is no cost attached. The Wix is a great example. We have the Google Apps platform at school, so we can even, within our high school, our students have Google Apps accounts. One thing we're looking towards is really having them start to create a digital presence with a Google site, primarily because we have control of who can also view that site. So as they are students and as while they're under the age of 18, we can protect them with within our domain with that Google site, and then as they graduate, they can begin to share it, as they wish. So that is another consideration. Ian and I had talked about that yesterday. There, as far as the students having signed policy and making sure that we protect our students, while they are under the age of 18, and then. But the nice thing about these platforms is that as they transition to that college and career piece, it's easily accessible outside of the school as well.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I'm so glad that you said that you talked about kind of that process and thinking through what it looks like when you have a longer time period, right? So Ian, your kids were able to do that just in a summer program, which is really terrific and valuable. And I'm sure they're very happy now because they're juniors and seniors and they have these portfolios that they can even build more upon and put on their college applications. And I think that we're going to see more and more students, applying to college. For me, if I were a college admissions officer, I would want to see a digital presence. And if it came in the form of an electronic portfolio or electronic resume of sorts, I would say to myself, all right, well, this child is already thinking about their digital presence. They're already thinking about the use of social media. They're already thinking about, they've got some 21st century skills that I would like to see in my incoming freshman class. So I think it's very valuable. Another reason why I asked about whether there were any challenges and whether they struggled is because over the years I have seen students in high school struggle to remember or to think about. Some students will say, well, I haven't done anything special, right? So maybe they're not even thinking about things that really happened, that they just, it happened once in their life, and a lot of things go on in in your teenage years that you forget about. So I think the idea of starting that portfolio in a freshman year and having like a whole year to really develop the structure, Mary, is a great idea. And I wonder how many schools are really seriously looking at finding the time to do that, because I do think that it's important. So ePortfolios, when we talk about ePortfolios as authentic assessments, right, we can talk about and think about it in a couple different ways. We can talk about it as a showcase, right? So you gave us a form of a showcase, like an electronic resume almost, or digital. Yeah, so a digital website where they have information about their awards and everything else, almost like adding more life to their transcript, right? Because a transcript usually only includes grades. But we can also look at ePortfolios as a learning journey, where they're reflecting on pieces that they have created over the years, right? So maybe they have a sample of writing, where they have writing samples, and we see writing samples at different stages of their high school life, or junior high and high school life, and we ask them to reflect on it. Have there been conversations about how you would think about creating those, or like what's the process right now? You're thinking about including ePortfolios perhaps as a form of assessment in your high school, Mary or Ian?
Definitely a possibility. It certainly was an assessment tool in this program that I taught at, and it was part of their overall grade. Some, particularly with the career and technical education area, a lot of assessments are performance-based. When you go to work in the professional world, a lot of those assessments will be performance-based. And even us as educators, our assessments are performance-based, not just the standard test, not just the standard paper. So I think it really does bring to light and underscore the important direction that assessing student performance is going. So I do look to bring this type of project, this type of learning experience as part of the classes that I currently teach. And again, it's only going to benefit the students in the long run, and really allow them to stand out among their peers.
And when I look at this, like from a department perspective, and look at what we're really doing for our students as we guide them through, not sure what everyone's format looks like, but where we have the students will go through certain pathways within our business school. So they may be in a marketing pathway or a banking and finance pathway. We also have a business management pathway. So when the students come in as freshmen, they take an overview of Office alongside a personal finance course, which is a requirement for their graduation. But my vision and goal, I suppose, is that as the students are doing an overview to a mouse course, which typically in a business environment, yes, it's going to be utilized and it's very valuable for our students to understand. But as things evolve, really looking at, okay, so how can the students use their skills that they're acquiring within that overview and really apply it again to something that they can take with them? How can they also work within Word, understand the Word platform, build a resume, even if it's a mock-up resume of their hopes or their goals or what they'd like to do. It may not be realistic at that point, but using that to teach a lot of the skills that we cover within a business course, so formatting and all that, but then taking that document that is relevant and meaningful to the student and then transitioning that to, say, a Google Doc or other platforms where they can see how different other opportunities that are available to them. How can they add that to a digital site? And really, giving them that experience of different platforms, and also addressing the skills that we want to address, but then giving them something that they can really grow with and learn from. And so as they progress through the year, like I said, as the freshmen, they'll take that overview class, then they'll move into more specific electives. But again, aligning that curricula to something that they can bring with them. So I'm going to show you an example of what I'm talking about. So for example, imagine every freshman starting with, and by senior year graduating with something that they can take with them. Now again, for us, Ian was able to accomplish this within that summer program, which is fantastic. But I wonder how much prep went into those students, how long did they have to create those brag sheets, etc. And the more we can expose our students to, the more we can make them aware of what will be necessary when they're ready to graduate, the better. So if we can start providing them, just getting them thinking about goals and their educational plan. Now these things could take one day, they could take 2 weeks, they're reflections. This is just a very basic template, but again, kind of working through, working within the business classroom to create a cover letter, and what does that look like, and how do we do that? So, professionally, how do you present yourself professionally, and their resume, and then various activities and awards. These are all the things. Now, it could be totally endless. I mean, clearly this is very much in the beginning stages, and this is not an actual student's work. But, why couldn't this be tied to a marketing plan? When students start to explore the 4 Ps, why couldn't they could have their own area where they're really, showcasing, so they can combine that showcase and then that learning journey, and just continue to contribute and save and have a space where they can just package everything up nice and neat and take it with them. So they can always go back, and especially for the students that are focused in already on something that they see doing through their educational and career journey.
Well, and to me, it also helps the student really see that what they're doing is relevant, and what they're doing in school is relevant, right?
Absolutely.
So I could see them perhaps being even more motivated to join another club, or really showcasing, being proud of the accomplishments that they've done. I would love to see, obviously, I would love to see it. ePortfolios be more used in school, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But what about teachers? How do you feel about teachers? Because, we always talk about good models for kids. And what about teachers having ePortfolios? Is that something that ever comes up in discussion? Or, right, so if we want to model for our kids, should we be looking at asking teachers to do ePortfolios themselves, of their philosophy, of their teaching practice? I mean, in college, that's what we have teachers do, and we have our student teachers. I've taught in undergrad and graduate programs, and our teachers have created ePortfolios. We've asked for their philosophies. We've asked for their teaching, philosophies and courses and student samples. And so, what do you think about something like that?
Ian, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I must admit that I did not yet have an online persona or web page away from my LinkedIn account that really presented my information in a different way than what people are used to looking at. So you have a LinkedIn page, or you have a Facebook page, or a Twitter feed, they all look the same. What really stands out about a web page or a student's online persona or ePortfolio is that it's unique to them. It's their design, and the audience definitely notices that. Not only that, but the student really went the extra mile in getting their information organized in a way that's visually appealing to the eye. It's the whole experience of presenting information. When you hand a business card to a client or to a potential employer, or your resume, how nicely presented do you want that business card to come across? Do you want it to be the standard business card, or do you want to jazz it up a bit? And so that's really the added value of having your own web page or your own online persona. as opposed to the standard LinkedIn or Facebook.
Yeah, and I have to agree because even as I began to become more exposed to a digital presence, it started to become very, I became very much aware that if I really wanted to compete uh, within, educational technology and be a connected educator, starting to develop that online presence is very, very valuable. And so for me, though, it was also a matter of exposure because I started to see what else was out there and, how to connect with other educators. And so I think, yes, to answer your question, Blanca, it's extremely valuable. It would be wonderful to see all teachers starting to move in that direction and really model that positive online presence. And there are a lot of conversations that do need to take place while we're moving there, with regard to digital citizenship and just your digital presence and literacy. So, creating that digital footprint and how you can portray yourself in a positive way is definitely part of what has to start happening in the conversations. And as teaching and education is evolving with the available technologies and resources that we have, I think just through exposure and hopefully it will just begin organically where people will start to see the value in communicating and being present online and what they can take from just different perspectives and having those conversations. So I'd certainly love to see all teachers moving towards that, and administrators as well. So it has to start with our leadership too. And I think it's a little bit of a cultural shift within education because so often it's just one of those industries that doesn't necessarily move in that. Even the LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know. I don't see every teacher necessarily even having a LinkedIn account. And Ian has a lot of great corporate and business experience that he brings to the table. So he has those experiences, and he already has that presence. But I don't know that I necessarily see all teachers doing that. So sure, the conversation has to be at every level, administrators included, to really start pushing that out. But I think certainly the value for the students is that as they begin their journey, they do that in a positive way. And it really starts with that the digital footprint conversation too, because you can't just hop online and create a website. So like Ian spent all that time, with the students gathering pertinent information, and then they presented it in a positive way. But a lot of those conversations are, they're just starting to happen, and they're very, very valuable.
Yep.
And they're all actually forms of assessment. I mean, if you think about it, the amount of learning that you could do, if you just look at the portfolio piece itself on all the little components that make that up, starting with your digital literacy conversations onto your completion. I mean, how many opportunities for learning are within that? It's like it's limitless.
Yeah, and it made me smile when you said digital footprint, because I remember a couple of activities that we started to embed when we were working with children who were going to have access to technology every day in school. Right. And one of our most favorite activities, at least for me, has always been the digital footprint, where we ask children to really look at their persona online. So we'll ask them to give us a sentence about who they are and who they perceive themselves to be. And then we have them use some digital tools to pull all of their information that they've posted online, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. And we put together like a status cloud, and then they get to compare their status cloud to, which will give you a word cloud, so the words they use most often will be large, and we ask them to compare that to the sentence that they would like to, be known as. So, if you want to be known as a creative artiste, but all of a sudden you're starting to pull your Facebook profile statuses together and you realize, wow, I use the word, hate a lot or terrible or, bad or whatever it is. And then you start to really realize, wow, who am I trying to be and who do I want to be? And so we've worked with children to clean up their profiles, and you wouldn't believe how many kids go back and then start just deleting things that they realize, wow, I never thought of that. I never looked at myself in that way, but that's what my public persona is saying, basically, right? So, so those are really important conversations to have, without a doubt. And before you even start to have those digital portfolio conversations, what age do you think? Well, at what age do you think it's important to start really developing these skills and have some serious conversation with kids? And I know different schools start at different ages, and some schools don't do really a lot of it because they feel like, well, if my kids don't have access to technology, I don't really need to have these conversations, right? So, like, what age would you feel would be appropriate to start to have those digital footprint conversations?
Digital footprint? Well, I'll tell you what, I see a lot of kids ages 8, maybe a little bit younger than 8, with their own cell phone. So as soon as you have a device in your hand that you can communicate, take pictures with, that isn't necessarily maybe being monitored all the time, I think we could have those conversations as early as possible, really.
And Ian, do you find that kids talk about like what they're doing online? Are they worried about it? Because you teach high school kids, so do you find that they're tremendously preoccupied with the image that they have online, or?
I can't say that they are tremendously preoccupied with the image that they have online. They're tremendously preoccupied with many other things that they encounter online. And, they look to it to entertain the whole social aspect of being online. It's really important as an educator to stress the importance of what the implications are in, being in cyberspace and carrying on certain activities in cyberspace and communicating with people in cyberspace. And I don't think they really start thinking about that until they've taken the SATs and they're starting to gather that information to applying. When they really shift their focus towards, gee, what is going to happen after high school? I think that's when the conversation starts to turn. And I don't think that should be the case, really. I think it should start at a much earlier stage. There are a lot of implications to doing certain things online. Obviously, it has its tremendous benefits, but bullying is a huge thing that we look out for as educators, as parents, as family members, as friends. So really, at the end of the day, it's important to stress the benefits that it provides you, and yes, to look out for making the right choices, because a student is able to hide behind a computer very easily without understanding what those implications are. But really, again, it's important to underscore the importance of how they can use that computer to their professional advantage.
Absolutely. So where do schools start? So if you you had an opportunity to work on ePortfolios over the summer in a very specific program that had a very specific end goal in mind. If there are people watching who are interested in starting to have those conversations, maybe the conversation is the right place, is the place to start. Who do you have those conversations with? Who do you include? What are some of the things that you're doing if you are exploring ePortfolios in your own classroom?
I would say that I would say that to approach the topic, to bring it up, yes, definitely start with freshmen, because they're coming in from middle school already having Twitter accounts, already following their peers and celebrities and other notable dignitaries on Twitter. So they have a good understanding of what it's all about. So I would say the sooner the better. Definitely tackle that when they're in the 9th grade. And yes, you want to make their parents aware of that. Oftentimes, the parents don't think twice about their kid being on the computer. They think, well, it's something that they have to do for school and work, and it's an important part of their social life. So, they're really not concerned about what they are doing on a computer or with a tablet or with a smartphone. But it's important to stress to the parents as well that yes, this can be used tremendously to benefit your child, and it's important that we follow, a defined pathway here, and what their experience is going to be through high school and beyond high school, and with implementing and utilizing these technology tools.
Yep.
So definitely the sooner the better.
Yep, and the conversations, include the parents in those conversations as well. I think that that's really important too. So what would you say to fellow teachers about the experience that you've had with students, and what you saw in the students as they were creating those portfolios? So if you had a colleague that you were trying to persuade, kind of do what you were doing, how would you begin that conversation with them? What do you think are some steps you would do?
I'd begin that conversation by highlighting how successful it was, and by also highlighting how much the students got out of it. Yes, these were gifted students. Yes, these are hardworking students. Yes, these are students with a vision. But students are excited to, talk about themselves, especially at that age. Students are excited to brag about themselves. So they might not see it as a challenging academic assignment that they'd want to hold off or put off or procrastinate on. I'd highlight the importance that students definitely see this as a fun activity. Educators shouldn't use the word fun too much. That could be a loosely used term, but this is a more appealing activity that students would look at with more enthusiasm. And without realizing, teachers have different strategies in the classroom to gain students' attention and to really drive home the subject that they're trying to cover, or the unit that they're trying to cover. But this is another tool that can be used to garner their attention, their delight.
Terrific. And Mary, any advice for schools out there looking to start exploring ePortfolios, maybe where to start from an administrator standpoint to have those conversations? I love, by the way, highlighting what worked. Coming back to a colleague and saying, look at how excited my kids are, look how they learned, look at all these relevant skills. And now looking at it from a different approach. So as an administrator, how do you bring up that conversation?
I think you have to look again at, really begin with the end in mind, and look at what you'd like to see your students be able to take away as they graduate as seniors, and then work backwards within your allotted time frames, and what's realistic, and how can you align what it is that you're already doing to something that can be applied to relevant and meaningful information for students that they can then continue, that they can take with them, that they can build and take with them, and along the way exposing them to opportunities that they may not take advantage of if they don't see them as important. But if they're trying to build their portfolio, or they see what that should look like as they graduate, it may just make them more aware, at the earlier stages of things that can work to their benefit and work to their advantage. So I would say definitely start with the end in mind, look at what you'd like to accomplish and what you'd like to have them graduate with, the students graduate with, and align it to your realistic time frames and your existing curricula, and start from there, and then just chunk it out.
Any other? So I love that. I love that approach. Starting with the end in mind. What are the goals? What are the skills that we want students to have, and then working backwards. And then do it in chunks, because that's really how we learn best, right? You don't want to overload the kids by assigning something that perhaps you haven't done yourself, and then you're expecting it in a week or two, and it really does, it's the journey, right? So, what are some, and I know we're nearing the top of the hour, and I just want to make sure our audience knows that if they have any questions at all, to please submit them. We're going to figure out this chat a little bit better the next time so that folks will be able to chat. I'm not so sure that everybody knew where to chat, but we are chatting in the questions box, which is okay. How about we talk about some of our favorite tools? So what are some tools that schools that students can use to either create their artifacts, collect their artifacts? We talked about Wix. I think that's a fabulous tool. It is free. I know a lot of high school teachers actually using Wix because it's easy. And they have really nice, streamlined, modern type templates. And I know Google Sites is another one that we really like because you can protect, right? So your children can create their portfolios and you can actually protect it so it can't be seen by someone outside the domain. Let's see, what conversations? Oh, we see a question here. So I was just gonna ask you, Ian, if you could share some of the other tools that you saw maybe students using to either create or curate their information.
Yeah, I mean, it started off with the very basics. Part of this, and again, I refer back to this program, and I know it's not something that everybody has the opportunity to participate in, but it's really college preparedness. So a lot of them were implementing, their SAT scores. I myself only took the SATs twice. Some of these students have taken it 7, 8 times. So, they're really enthusiastic about communicating their SAT scores and how they moved up a few percentage points. The data gathering process can happen on many different fronts. It could happen in the form of a conversation that you might be having with a mentor that's trying to coach a student on college admission. It could happen simply by, doing some self-reflection on their involvement in the community. It could happen and doing some self-reflection on what their accomplishments were in high school. It could be a product of simply thinking about, well, what do they do every day when they go to school? So those were very, very important starting points. I did have, you mentioned earlier, how would you tackle this with a student who hasn't really put much thought into what their accomplishments are, who might be more of a intrapersonal type and more of an introvert, and not be that socially active, not express themselves a whole lot, not have a whole lot of discussions with other people. How would you approach that type of situation? And I did have a situation like that with a student, and I really had to pick her brain about the things that she did, and I started by saying, well, what are your accomplishments? I don't have no accomplishments. Well, what is it that you do in your high school experience? I go to school and I go home. And again, this is one of the gifted kids who just never had been presented the opportunity with advocating for herself. So I really had to dig in and break it down into the different classes that she took, what her daily schedule looked like, different activities that she looked forward to. And so at the end of that class, it took me about a 20-minute discussion with the student, and I was able to redact from her the fact that she is involved in her community. She does volunteer work with soup kitchens and other programs that she is passionate about within the school. So I looked at that as a success, and her webpage did turn out quite well also. She was more of an artistic type of person, so not only did she showcase those types of academic and community accomplishments, but she also showcased some of her artwork. So let's say, for example, if she was looking at applying to an art school or an art program, or using her talents as an artist as part of a selling point in the admissions process. That admissions counselor could go to the student's webpage and look at her artwork instead of saying, hey, can you told me about your artwork, could you send me some of that in the form of an email sometime? I'd really like to see it. And then a week later, maybe some of that artwork gets that admissions counselor. It's already there. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Admissions Counselor, check out my webpage. Not only is some of the important information that you need already there, but some of that artwork you asked me about is there also.
That's great. Well, a portfolio certainly does offer an opportunity for a child to really be able to show what they're interested in, and because they have control over it, right? They can really make it whatever that they want to be. You have some structure to it, and you could start off with a lot of structure, like the Google Site template that we saw, which I often see. That's how students start off, because they may need some guidance. They may need lots of those questions you just talked about. Probing and making sure that that you are asking the child questions about. All right, well, what else is it that you do? What does your day look like? There's got to be something in there, because all of our students, even if they're not maybe involved in school, they're doing. They're, so for the most part, they're social, and they're doing, and it's great when they can advocate for themselves.
Absolutely. That's such a valuable piece too, just of their learning journey and as they move towards college and career, like Ian mentioned, they may not have that opportunity. Some of us may not have it until we're, halfway through our careers as far as advocating for ourselves. And so the digital presence really does allow itself it lends itself to that opportunity where you can throw up your artwork. You can put up, there's so many opportunities. Create a Glogster poster, like Ian had. Some of those students had created a YouTube video. I mean, I may not be the most extroverted student, but all weekend I may be documenting, things in my neighborhood. That may be my thing, and that's, a gift and a skill, and definitely certainly requires talent that the student can then, really showcase that through a digital portfolio. So, and these are different ways of differentiating the learning experience and allowing students to really tap into their gifts and talents and using that to advocate for themselves. That's a really a nice way to look at it too, is that it just begins that whole process for them of really, putting out there what they have to offer.
Yep. I love that. What a great way to close too. I just want to make sure too that we had one question from Zainab. What conversations you mean here? Regular conversations or in the work and studying? And I think, Ian, you mentioned conversations with the students and trying to really help them dig deep to find ways to showcase their talent. So hopefully we answered that question. I don't see any other questions, so we'll just wait one more moment to see if anybody else has any other questions. But I would love to come back in like a year and find out what else you've been able to accomplish by working with students and creating ePortfolios and thinking about ePortfolios. We have lots of groups here in my area that I know that are looking into ePortfolios as authentic assessments. So really to try and look at other ways that children can demonstrate their skills and their knowledge and their passions, and more than just a performance task, more than something very structured, but making it more authentic and more relevant. And of course, more than just a paper and pencil test, which, we're trying to move away from because it only gives us a snippet of the picture of what a child knows. All right. So any final thoughts, Ian or Mary? I think we don't have any more questions.
No, I just want to add, to Ian's point about how he really had to probe with that student and get her to acknowledge and explore what it is that she had to offer. The teacher is such a valuable piece to this whole puzzle. So we have the digital platforms, we have the digital presence and opportunities to really innovate within our instruction and within our classrooms, but our educators are still at the forefront of that whole process. And so kudos to you, Ian, for making that happen for all those students.
Yay!
Oh, well, thank you. And if I could just add in that, teaching is not just, teaching a student material covering curriculum. You're really nurturing that student, and you're really encouraging them to advocate for themselves. You're providing them with starting to think about what's going to happen after the classroom. And so that's a great sense of purpose that I have in what I do and what I did over the summer.
Great, and it shows, Ian. You're very, very passionate about the work that you do with students, and it really does show. And we just want to thank you very, very much for sharing your experience and sharing your students' work. And we have hopefully we can come back and we can reconnect in a year, like I said, and see if there have been some other developments, and perhaps you'll work with another group next year and you'll find more things to share with us. We want to thank everybody out there for watching and for listening, and we also want to invite you to continue the conversation. We have a Teachers Engaged discussion that I'm just going to put up here on the screen in just a moment. We have a Teachers Engaged discussion to follow up with questions about ePortfolios. Here you go. I'll just leave it on the screen for a few minutes. I'll also include this link in the events page so that people who have been a part of the conversation and a part of tonight's webinar can receive a certificate for participating. And we'll ask you to go into the Teachers Engaged community. Leave us a short post about what you found most valuable about today's session. Tell us a little bit about, the way that you are exploring ePortfolios in your schools for your students. And again, it's a great place to just continue the conversation. We'll have some follow-up resources and links for you. And again, we just want to thank you. Mary and I just want to thank you for being a participant and sharing with us. So thank you, Ian, so much. Thank you, participants out there. Here is just a snapshot of what that Teachers Engaged community post looks like. And we do invite you to join us again as we really talk about student learning, and we continue to share with all of you. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.